Welcome to Playland-Not-At-The-Beach. We term ourselves a museum of fun, and we're here to try to transform people's lives and to bring joy into their existence. Mostly we're commemorating the old Whitney's Playland that once existed in San Francisco, along with the Sutro Baths and many of the other seaside attractions that were part of the history of San Francisco. But to be fair to all the visitors from other parts of the country and around the world, we have a little bit of everything. Things from Riverview in Chicago, things from Coney Island in New York City. We don't want to leave out just all the people who never made a trip to see Playland. We've had a lot of visitors from Europe who've looked at some of the photographs of Laughing Sal, the Joy Wheel, some of our other attractions, and immediately start laughing and saying, "Oh, I remember that. That was one of my very favorite things." And I look at them and say, "I thought this was your very first time in America this week." And they say, "Oh, this isn't America. This is Spain. This is the funhouse that I went to when I was a little kid." And I'm like, "Really?" And you have to remember, back at the time when a lot of these amusements were built in the teens and early 1920s, these things were oftentimes mass-produced, or plans were developed and then shipped out, and individual amusement park owners would build their own versions of it. The first attraction at Playland-Not-At-The-Beach that came together was, in fact, the Marcks Miniature Circus. And this is, in fact, the cornerstone of our entire collection. It ties in nicely because at both the Sutro Baths and at Playland-At-The-Beach, they had several miniature circuses. None quite as grand, and certainly none as large as this. And lo and behold, this one emerged out of a home only a few blocks from our building when I met a gentleman named Don Marks. He had spent 50 years of his life, that's right, 5 decades, working side by side with his father Isaac, hand carving the 300,000 pieces that we have here in our miniature circus. When I met Don, he was 75, and in fact, he thought that his family had thrown away all the pieces decades earlier. But with a little coaxing, he went into his basement and eventually ended up bringing over 13 steamer trunks full of all the delicate little tiny pieces. So here we've got everything from the miniature circus to Santa's village, reminiscent of the old amusement park in the Santa Cruz Mountains, to a collection of Dickens village pieces, to a genuine 3,000-year-old mummy, to all these wonderful artifacts from the Dark Mystery and Limbo and all the old dark rides at Playland. It's every 8-year-old kid's absolute dream come true. Laughing Sal was a product that you could buy out of a magazine, and if you owned an amusement park, it's really likely you owned one. The Laughing Sals that we have, because we have two of them, are in fact one original and one a more recent version of it that was made specially for our museum. In fact, coming up soon during the Halloween season, we're going to make a trip up to the asylum and have the third Sal released. So during the year, we oftentimes have Laughing Sal and, of course, Sinister Sal. But during the October timeframe, we're also delighted to have Psycho Sal. We have a very interesting blend of these amazing artifacts that were literally rescued out of the dust bins as bulldozers were pulling in after September 4th of '72 and destroying everything and breaking every little kid's heart. But right next to it in our museum, we have recreations of many of the things that were there. So we have our own version of Dark Mystery, to me one of the most terrifying rides that Playland ever had. And our volunteers and artists have recreated little vignettes that represent the kind of thrills one would have seen. Way back in 1999, we began construction of the Museum of Fun, and I have to admit, initially we bought the building without a real firm idea of exactly what we were going to be building here. But sort of like the movie of Field of Dreams, Build It and They Will Come, out of the woodwork suddenly came a lot of volunteers and engineers, painters, woodworkers, designers, and most importantly, people with a fond memory of the old Playland at the beach. Sometimes we'd be sitting in here working and we'd hear a horn honk. We'd go out into the parking lot and here'd be a pickup truck loaded with old penny arcade machines. And someone would ask, "Are you Richard?" And I'd say, "Yes." And say, "I saw you on the news last night. My Uncle Wilbur worked at Playland the last 20 years of his life, and we're finally cleaning out his attic. We're on our way to the dump, unless you'd like these old things from Playland." And we'd say, "Would we?" So the volunteers and I would stop what we were doing and pull things into the building, and the next thing we know, we were building an incredible collection of all these amazing things. Our project here in El Cerrito is one of those weird little projects that comes out of nowhere. We here, all the volunteers and myself, definitely believe in magic, because that's how this came about. We had no plan initially except to have a really cool place where people of every age could hang out and have fun. My entire life I've collected a lot of things that were fun, everything from lots of pinball machines and penny arcade things, lots of carnival stuff, and my house was overflowing. It made sense to move some of it and acquire more things down here. By meeting all these people who once worked at Whitney's Playland and who certainly had wonderful, fond memories of the old park, suddenly we had a theme around which to wrap everything. To be totally honest with you, it used to be that people would call me during the week and say, "Richard, are you going to be open Friday night? I want to come over and play some of your free pinball games." And someone else would call and say, "Hey, is the warehouse going to be available Friday night?" And then someone else would call and say, "Hey, is the Funhouse open Friday night?" And one of those times, somebody called and said, "Richard, is Playland going to be open Friday night for us to come and play free pinball?" And I jokingly replied, "Ah, Playland, but not at the beach." Well, the next week I referred to it again as my Funhouse, and somebody corrected me and said, No. You've got the name now. It's Playland, not at the beach." And the next thing I knew, we were in the newspapers, on television shows, and everybody thought we'd come up with this very clever, shrewdly planned name, Playland-Not-At-The-Beach. And when they come to our museum, we're only 25 miles away from the original site, they get the same feeling they had when they were there on a chilly, foggy day when the rides were going and Laughing Sal was amusing them, and they feel like they're a kid again. Now that's all really wonderful, and it makes us glad we did all the things we've done to build Playland-Not-At-The-Beach. Our goal is that when someone walks through our front door, whether they're 18 or 85, by the time they leave, they're going to be laughing and skipping and feeling just like they're 8 years old again. And it's amazing how often we see that transformation. When people leave, they give us a hug and thank us for bringing them back to their childhood. So we hope we can do the same thing for you when you come to visit Playland-Not-At-The-Beach. what would you like me to say?
What'd you have for breakfast?
I skipped breakfast this morning because I was in such a hurry to get down here to clean my teeth and get ready and iron my clothes for tonight's show and get all ready for this and start planning things for the seance for Friday night.
We're good.
Good.